I need old Parker back because this new Parker, he sounds amazing, but
it's too
he
radio
just
DJ.
enjoys listening to himself talk right now.
Way too much. This is so self-aggrandizing. Way too much. Yeah. So anyway. Hello, welcome to the Money Lap Podcast. I'm Parker Kligerman, joined as always by Landon Cassill, and I may sound a little bit different today. And that is because I'm coming to you from an entirely new location, in and on location with Joshua Mendoza, as well, our producer here in Redwood City, California, from Sound Union. So big shout out to Sound Union. Go check them out. They do a bunch of music stuff here, plus podcast recording. They hooked us up with this amazing little podcast room and studio, which is very nice of them. So thank you for doing that. We also are learning all about mics, Landon, and what sounds good versus not.
You sound amazing, Parker.
It's unbelievable. It's like velvet.
Also, by the way, I can tell that you can hear yourself in your headphones by the way you're talking. So
is it that obvious?
If anybody else caught that, I need old Parker back because this new Parker, he sounds amazing, but
it's too
he
radio
just
DJ.
Enjoys listening to himself talk right now.
Way too much. This is so self-aggrandizing. Way too much. Yeah. So anyway, I can hear myself, and so I can't hide from it. I can't hide from the fact that it sounds so velvety compared to any other time I've used a microphone.
Welcome to the Money Lap, where I sound sexy.
Yeah, welcome to the Money Lap. Yeah, we're deep late night motorsports talk.
You never know what you're gonna get on these West Coast trips.
You don't know because I've always been in locations. What are you going to get on this pod today? We're going to talk the NASCAR Cup Series and reaction. Obviously, everyone's favorite word, waiver, finally going away from our lexicon. Xfinity Series breakdown from Portland. We're going to talk some F1 driver news that sort of broke across this week, and global motorsports, of course. We also have a couple topics that relate to money. Surprise, surprise, in motorsports. But we start with the PR lap. We've got one new review here on Apple Podcasts as we are on our quest to 200. We're now in the 160s. This one says, update, Ambassadors of Motorsports Talking Racing, from David T1414, who I believe also helped us get this location here at Sound Union. So he's a big fan of the pod. We're still going to give him a shout out, let this be out there. He said, update, while I appreciate the giveaways and promotion of the greatest day in motorsports, you missed out on the 24 hours of Lemons that was racing the longest road course in America. It is actually only 14 and a half hours long, but it ran on a 5-mile course at Thunderhill Raceway, just outside of Sacramento, California. 106 cars, and producer Josh was part of the Wrangle It 99 Honda Civic that placed 20th overall, 10th in Class B. Well done, Josh.
Thanks. It was designed behind Dale Earnhardt's Wrangler car, but we didn't, there's all those things called intellectual property and stuff.
Got it.
So Wrangle It is what we went with instead.
It's good to hear that you didn't violate any intellectual property laws or anything with your Wrangle It car.
Yeah, no, that's a really easy thing to say, Wrangle It. Landon, would you like to take the YouTube one here?
Yeah, if I can zoom in on it. I don't know why the font is so tiny. Why
It's so
are
small.
Americans
It's for ants.
Great. Did you just set me up? Did you just
I
set me up?
set you up. I knew kind of what was there.
Why? This is from Faster Out 777 on YouTube. Why are Americans so obsessed about the best in the world tag? Yes, the Indy 500 was a great race. Leave it there. There are plenty of other great races with bigger significance for others around the world. Le Mans 24-hour and the weekends Nürburgring 24-hour, just to name a couple. Well, first of all, Faster Out 777. Thank you for the comment. I would think you like and subscribe as well, so thank you for that. And by the way, to address your question about why are Americans so obsessed with the best in the world tag, it's because we're Americans, baby. That's the American
We're the
way.
best.
We
We're
seek
the best.
excellence. And so, yes, the Indy 500 is the greatest race in the world. It is a greater race than Le Mans 24. It's a greater race than Nürburgring 24, even though those are amazing races.
Yeah.
It is
I
the
would
best.
I would put the Le Mans 24-hour up there, of course, but the Nürburgring 24, I'm sorry, doesn't make the cut there. It's an exciting, cool one, but it's very, it's not it's filled with amateurs, which is fine. It's great racing. It's just, and it's really cool, and I love that track, but it's not the professional.
Yeah.
Le Mans
Well, filled with
24-hour.
amateurs. That's an interesting thing to say, and
Well, that's basically all racing, and anything I've been a part of is filled with amateurs. It's got me
anyways,
in it.
So get your Wrangler car, intellectual property, topics, YouTube, amateurs at Nürburgring, whatever. If you do not want any amateur diecasts or intellectual property violations, then you need to shop at spoilerdiecast.com for all your high-quality diecast and apparel. Authorized. What am I saying? I screwed this all up. Well, you guys know what SpoilerDiecast.com is. One of the fastest-growing companies in the industry. What sets them apart? Let me tell you. Spoiler Diecast prides themselves on exceptional service. All orders ship either same or next day. This is SpoilerDiecast.com we're talking about. They have a free shipping on orders over $20. You get a smooth and affordable shopping experience. So if you are a diecast collector, whether it's NASCAR, IndyCar, F1, dirt and sprint cars, so yes, you can shop with F1 and those second best racing series in the world, because the Indy 500 is the greatest race in the world. We've determined that in the PR lab. SpoilerDiecast.com has over 1,100 unique products currently in stock. They are NASCAR focused, but like I said, they have a little bit of everything. They're passionate race fans. We love them. Shop them. SpoilerDiecast.com.
Go check it out. Love those guys. And there might be some great diecast from this past weekend, which was, Landon, the greatest day in motorsports, the greatest weekend in motorsports. It was Memorial Day weekend. Always an honor to, or not this past weekend, sorry, 2 weekends ago. Was the greatest day and greatest weekend in motorsports. And we talked about the double that didn't quite happen. And I think the thing to remember there, though, is that we had talked about for months our giveaway with Pristine Auction. That's pristineauction.com, where we were giving away 4 amazing prizes. Well, we have the winners. We do have the winners for the Pristine Auction giveaway, and you can go check out Pristine Auction at pristineauction.com. We had closed that off. We had a huge amount of people that entered, but we now have the winners. I'm holding them here in my hand, these winners. Now, before I tell you the winners, I just want to put it out there. There's a couple of you who have won this. We've reached out to you, and you are not responding to us. We cannot give you this prize if you do not respond. So go check your email right now, as Landon is laughing at my radio DJ jazz voice as I say this. So our winners of the Pristine Auction giveaway, hold on, let me get into these names. We're not giving full names, so you're just going to have to extrapolate this out. It's Kim V, Corey B, Allison M, and Rick M. If one of those names aligns with you as a listener, go check your email. We have been reaching out to you to give you one of these 4 amazing prizes from Pristine Auction and our friends at pristineauction.com. This is a shout-out. One other thing. If we don't hear from you in the next few weeks, we're going to give that prize to someone else. So if you recognize either being Kim V, Corey B, Allison M, M as in mom, or Rick M as in mom, please check your email. Reach out to us.
There's my
Thank
boy.
You, Pristine Auction.
There he is. He's back. You
were
putting me to sleep.
I'm sorry. It was just so loud in my head. I can't even control. Josh, can you turn me down? It's the there we go. Now I'm not so in my. I was literally in my own head the whole time.
I was, for those of you following along, I was DMing Parker during that ad read, like, hey,
yeah,
buddy,
which I was reading as I was reading,
up.
So it was really confusing.
I couldn't stop laughing at your jazz radio DJ voice. We need to bring this energy. We need to. Parker's back.
It's back. All right, we're sorry
He's here.
for being so lame.
Still sounds amazing.
Also, one last thing on Pristine Auction. They were really cool to do that giveaway, and you can still use the code MONEYLAP for $10 off at your first win if you go sign up for Pristine Auction and go try and go win some memorabilia on there. But great supporters of motorsports, good friends of ours, and hopefully we'll be doing a lot more stuff in the future with those guys. So pretty cool. And I hope all 4 winners of you will go and check your email and go get that prize from Pristine Auction. It was a really cool deal. Let's talk racing, starting with NASCAR. We mentioned it. The Cup Series finally got an answer post the Gateway race, in which Kyle Larson and Kyle Busch came together at the end of stage 2. Was that stage 2? Am I remembering that correctly? Or stage 1? At the end of a stage, essentially, racing for a stage points-paying position. Kyle Larson and Kyle Busch got together, in which Kyle Busch got out and said, I don't know if it means anything to him, but it meant a lot to me to lose a point like that, which was a slight bit of shade towards the idea that we didn't know if Kyle Larson was getting a waiver or not for missing the Coca-Cola 600 in his double-duty effort to do the Indy 500 and the Coke 600. We got that answer this week, Landon. He's gotten a waiver.
How much time do we want to talk about this? We should have asked the fans before.
I don't think we need a ton.
Do we want to? I mean, because how did it make you feel when you? Where were you at the moment before you found this announcement? Where was your heart and mind at on giving him a waiver? The moment before you found out.
Well, I think I've been pretty public with the idea of supporting a waiver when I felt like he brought an immense amount of attention to motorsport, and not just NASCAR, just motorsport in general, doing it. And I believe for NASCAR, the idea is we want stars. We want to make stars. We've been lacking stars. That's what they keep saying. Here's a guy who's gone out of his way. His sponsor, his team owner, Rick Hendrick, has funded this thing to create him into a bigger star for NASCAR. And to not just immediately support that and understand, hey, man, we're all in this together, and we'll make some sort of provision here to accept this and to allow you to continue to build on that stardom and go race for a championship. It made no sense to me. So I'm glad it happened. It was odd it took so long. I won't lie, when the Gateway race turned on, I said, wow, we just saw the green flag, and one of the competitors in there has no idea if he's racing for a championship or not. That's weird as hell.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm glad
that
it's
was
fixed.
weird.
Yeah.
If I get to be
Where were
honest,
you?
my gut feeling the whole time from start to finish was that I wanted him to have a waiver, that he should have a waiver, identical to your opinions, right? Stars, the whole thing. But I had myself, by the time the race started in St. Louis on Sunday, I had myself convinced that NASCAR wasn't going to give him a waiver and that they had every right to do so. And maybe that still can be true. Right? They obviously have the right. It's their sandbox. But I made enough arguments in my own head that I was like, you know what? Even though my heart wants Kyle Larson, my heart wants the star, the motorsports star, my NASCAR purist in me, if I was a company man, was convinced on how I could say, no, he didn't show up for the race. Sorry. And so after the ruling of giving him a waiver, I'm kind of like, okay, I get it. That was what we thought all along. But I kind of go back it does make me go back to what you just said, where it's just then why didn't it take so long? Why didn't we clearly, why didn't NASCAR clearly know all along what their true intention was with the waiver? Why wasn't it obvious to them?
Yeah.
Would you guys say that this is the first time that a Premier Series driver has had a situation where the clear and obvious decision on a waiver was not clear and obvious?
Definitely. I mean,
they gave Matt Kenseth a waiver after missing half the season, didn't he?
Who's that?
No, several races. Didn't Matt Kenseth get a waiver after missing several races?
And then, Kyle Busch, obviously, the year he won his first championship, obviously got injured and had a waiver for the
right.
time. They missed a ton of races, so it's just it was just simply, and they put it out there that it was uncharted territory for them in their in their
I can
statement,
appreciate that.
Which I can definitely.
I think that's it. I mean, that's where I need to settle. I need to stop thinking about it and say, you know what, Landon, you've argued both sides well.
No, we're ready to be your therapist here, by the way.
I know you are my therapist. This is my therapy. This is my motorsports therapy.
Yeah.
I think I've argued both sides well, and I could support both sides in any scenario. And I think the biggest thing I will say that takes me back to when I read the quotes, I can appreciate what NASCAR said when they said, you know what, this is kind of unprecedented for us, and we wanted to take the time and consider it right. And so they did, and they gave him a waiver.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that does set a precedence moving forward that doesn't matter who you are, doesn't matter what your intentions were, all leading up to it, and the variables, the rain and all this stuff. If you miss a NASCAR race, they are going to take the time to seriously consider all scenarios, right? Maybe that's ultimately the message that we need to take from this.
Yeah. And that is
that
fair.
It's a serious thing.
100%. Missing a race, I mean, in this day and age, where winning you're in, right? To go fight for a championship means, making an effort to start every race, no matter what the situation, whether it's, a physical or injury or, some other circumstance. it's it's a big deal to miss races, and they do this and they design it this way because just like what golf went through for years, where stars wouldn't show up at events, right? They changed things to ensure those stars had to show up at events, and obviously NASCAR's been a little different than that. But when you have a system that could allow you not to be there every time, you got to be very protective of what you do and do not allow as to why you didn't show up, right? And I get that 100%. Mm-hmm. Glad they gave him the waiver. It was the right thing to do. We can all move on now and know that he's racing for a championship as a driver. And, potentially, if he does this again, it gets everyone better prepared for the eventualities in the worst-case scenario. So, the last thing on this topic, sources through Sports Business Journal report that Hendrick spent $3 million on this effort for Kyle Larson to attempt the double, which is very fair. So, I've always known that it's about $1.5 million to $2 million for a top deal in the Indy 500 for that month. That's the engine deal, that's the team preparing the car, and to do it the right way, even with some of the pre-testing he did and that sort of thing, I would assume these numbers are pretty legit. And then obviously just the planes and helicopters and the logistics of it all, and having 2 buses at 2 different racetracks. I would have thought
more, but
really more? Why?
I don't know. I mean, I guess if you said $1.5 million gets him in the car and gets all of the sponsorship assets, maybe, I don't know what kind of activation they did at the track.
Yep.
Right? Did they do any Hendrick Cars activation? Did they make commercials? Did they, what were the...
So a lot of merch.
They flew the whole team up there, his Cup team up there for one of the practice days, didn't they?
I wonder if that's included in the $3 million.
Right, that's what I don't know. I mean, to say $1.5 million worth of incidentals on top of the cost of just putting Kyle Larson in the car, seem maybe light to me.
Yeah.
I mean, they had a couple jets flying back and forth with all the Hendrick executives on it. Gulfstream ain't cheap.
Who knows what they're accounting for that $3 million? Maybe that $3 million is what it took to actually allow him to do the double. All the ancillary stuff, team coming, the executives flying on 4 different jets, and the
I'm just reading a headline that says Hendrick spent $3 million on the double.
Well, that's why shrimp cocktail. What do you put in the shrimp cocktail mounds for all?
I mean, did they have a big family dinner at St. Elmo's? Because that's probably that would right there.
There you go. That's important. We got to put that in there. Do you need Do you need a bus for every executive? Is that normal?
I guarantee you there was a bus for the executives and for Kyle and for. Look, you know what? At the end of the day, I just hope these teams can finally get their fair share from NASCAR.
It's what's needed. No one's gonna get. That's the meme. That's the meme.
I'm shocked no one mentioned the tee time in the middle of the golf course.
Oh yeah, well where do you get the tee times? How do you fit
priceless.
the tee time in there?
That's priceless.
Yeah, there you go. Can't put a number on it. Newgarden, driver for Team Penske, 2-time Indy 500 winner, now back-to-back, wants to do the double. As we spoke with Connor Daly last week, which if you haven't checked out was awesome. I don't know if it's going to be easy for anyone to go the opposite way, because the Indy 500 is the most important race for an IndyCar driver. The Coca-Cola 600 is a very big race, but it is not the Daytona 500. It is not the end-all, be-all, the largest paying race of the year. So I do believe it's more difficult for a guy like Joseph Newgarden to say, I want to go do the double. Obviously, being a part of Team Penske is important, being involved in all that, and he probably has the best shot, but it would be, odd for the team to say, hey, you're here as an IndyCar driver, which means the Indy 500 is the most important thing, and we're going to somehow separate your interest, your focus, and, drive this, I don't know, this, not distraction, but obviously just a split mind approach to the most important races of their season. I don't see that happening. I don't see Penske wanting to do that.
My thought is wouldn't it be easier? Because you do all of your work for the Indy 500 the weeks leading up, and the Coke 600 is just a weekend. So you have Friday and Saturday, you just don't do your appearances before, and then if you can just show up late to the Coke 600. Kyle Larson already proved that.
Well, I think the problem is it's just like the Indy 500 is the biggest, most important race of the year for them. So you're as an IndyCar driver, your main job is the Indy 500. Like that is one of the largest portions of your job is the Indy 500. To then somehow separate your focus and everything, it doesn't make any sense to me. If I was the team owner, I'd be like, that sounds fun, but we're not going to do it. And there's no reason to. Go win the Indy 500 again, and we don't have to worry about it. So that would be my opinion. Landon doesn't seem to have big, strong opinions on it. So we'll move on.
Well, I don't, I think Connor kind of took me, I don't know, Connor kind of made my decision for me on it, where he's just like, you know what, what's the motivation? Why? Yeah. I think it's all upside for a NASCAR driver to do it. Right? Mm-hmm. And the other thing is you could go one step further and be like, the Indy 500 in itself is extremely special, and those guys are specialized. They know that type of racing. Like we watched Kyle Larson make mistakes and have to learn his way through how to be an Indy 500 driver. But those guys, they race on that track once a year, right? Yep. And we race on intermediate ovals 10 times a year and short ovals, and those cars and cup drivers are in the rhythm of the season, and they just came from Darlington and they're going to Charlotte, and it's just like for Joseph Newgarden to learn how to drive a NASCAR stock car on an oval track in a style of racing he really isn't used to on a one-off weekend on the biggest weekend of the year for him, what's the point? There's not a lot of upside there. The real upside for an IndyCar driver, even though it's not the double, the real upside for an IndyCar driver is to go to the Daytona 500 and have success.
Mm-hmm.
That's where you have upside for an IndyCar driver.
Plus, because their season hasn't even started yet when the Daytona 500 happens.
And unfortunately, it's not a double, but the double to me, I think, is a unique thing to NASCAR drivers.
Yep.
However, it would be really cool and really entertaining to see an IndyCar driver do the double. So maybe not a Joseph Newgarden type thing, but like a Connor Daly or a Stingray Robb or like a one of these guys that can prove that they're a gritty, all around racing driver. They need to do something creative to get some attention, even though just being in the Indy 500 alone is probably gets them all the attention they need, at least around Indianapolis for the week for as a professional. It still would be extremely cool. I don't want to discount the cool factor by any means. I just think it's a challenge that's unique and motivating to NASCAR drivers.
We'll see if anyone wants to do it. Scott McLaughlin, I know, wants to do stock cars, but we'll see if he gets. Obviously, coming from a supercar background and what we've seen with SVG has done, I think he could be really, really interesting if he does it. It just the double doesn't make much sense to me. To your point, I think there's something more. It's bigger, more impactful for an IndyCar driver to look at doing the Daytona 500 or even doing road courses through the year and then also doing IndyCar. Like that's impactful. It's unique. It just the other way, the double doesn't make much sense to me. Let's move on to Gateway this past weekend, where towards the end, most of this race was between Christopher Bell and Ryan Blaney, who had some pretty excellent battles until Christopher Bell ran into engine issues all of a sudden while battling for the lead. So then it looked like it was Ryan Blaney's race in hand coming down to the last few laps, and as they came to get the white flag, he ran out of fuel. His teammate, Austin Cindric, who was in second place, took the win, although was competitive enough and obviously qualified on the front row, was up there the whole time, and just got leapfrogged on the green flag pit cycle by his teammate Ryan Blaney. Ended up going, pitting a lap later, had enough fuel, won the race. Goes from, was he 22nd in points, Josh?
Yeah, he was somewhere outside there.
Outside the top 20 to now being in the playoffs. Massive, massive jump. This is the type of thing that, for those that were looking at point situations, they have nightmares over. Is this exact scenario? And it's not like it was a super speedway, which you can account for, or a road course sometimes you can account for. This was at a legitimate oval that Austin Cindric pulled this off. And, that's a tough thing if you're focused on making the playoffs. So I thought it was a fairly interesting race. Great racing for that racetrack, which I don't believe always puts on. I don't think has always been the most compelling racetrack for me personally. But huge, huge win for Austin Cindric.
What, I didn't, where are we at? What are we up to on individual winners now?
That's a Josh question.
I'm pulling it up right now.
He's looking.
I
keep
didn't even think of that until now.
It's not as many as you hope.
Yeah, I feel like we're lower than last year. I felt
we
like
have
the last couple of years.
Six right now.
Yeah, that's not a lot. So it's, gosh, and we're what, 10 weeks away from the playoffs? 12 weeks away from the playoffs?
Yeah, there's going to be several positions on points.
Yep.
This year. So
that's a bummer. We were so close to. We've been so close to having a winner not make the playoffs.
I know. Well, 2 years ago.
Not that I'm like
damn
rooting
close.
for the world to burn, but it's sometimes in the world of memes and the internet and our generation, we're so cynical. That is the type of mass destruction that we all look for.
It reminds me of rooting for Ryan Newman the first year of the playoffs.
Oh, without winning the
championship.
To win, which he came one spot away.
To win the
car in front
championship
of him
without
wasn't
winning
the
a
Ford
race.
car.
Yeah. When the whole point of instituting the playoffs was like to put an emphasis on winning.
Something tells me there were some NASCAR executives that had some seriously sweaty armpits during that moment there.
Oh my gosh. The best part about it is, like, I don't know in NASCAR history anybody had won the championship without winning a race. Let alone
they hadn't. It was,
using a system where they designed it to emphasize winning. That was something.
So
what year
crazy.
was that? 2013?
2014.
Yeah,
2014.
2019, yeah. Matt Crafton. Did he win a race that year for the Truck Series?
I am pretty sure that Crafton won the championship with a
he had to
win.
have won a race.
I'm pretty sure.
Oh, without winning,
but
the
it
race?
might have been one. And I also know that Crafton. It took him
well,
that
if
one's
someone
a
out
good
there
one.
knows, they'll correct us for sure, which would be awesome.
Let it go.
But
We can
we'll move.
we can continue on. But that was what a great topic.
I'd like to just one thing on this though. With Austin Cindric winning, I think this was huge for him, and I know the performance since winning the Daytona 500 in the Cup Series, he has not had the performance that he wanted, obviously, at this level. And there's been crew chief changes between his team and the 21 team. I think he has shown how tough it is to acclimate to the Cup Series and how deep a pool it is. From how dominant at times he was in the Xfinity Series. I actually had lunch with him last year at Chicago, and we just talked about basically just how tough the Cup Series is, for an hour, and how basically every ounce of your game has to be upped, right? And with that though, I did leave that lunch thinking there's a guy who is literally putting everything he's got into it, and the reason I say that is he just talked so deeply about how it was everything. It was all he focused on. He had, at the time he's telling me how he's got no furniture in his house, and because it's all about racing, and it was all about how to be better and how to be faster and how to just figure this out, how to be better in the Cup Series and better prepared and all this. And I'm not saying, this is the big turnaround or whatever. I'm just saying as, someone who got to sort of be there as he was maybe in some of the toughest moments and saw even struggling at Chicago that weekend when he was so pumped up about it when it was a road course. I think it's just a great example of when we talk about the Cup Series being really tough, this is how tough. This is a guy at a team that is won a championship last year, and he's won a Daytona 500, but he's not been there and nearly been to the results that he's wanted everywhere else. So this is a big one, big one.
So I guess I have a question off of that.
Mm-hmm.
We've always said the Cup Series is just at this level where, you grind it out and it's hard to get rides, it's hard to keep rides, and you never know why. But there's one thing that solves a lot of your problems.
I think I know what it is.
Winning.
Right? Fixes everything.
Winning fixes everything. So let's review that really quick with Cindric. If we would have said 1 week ago, oh man, he's on the hot seat. He better look out, right? He better get with it. No matter how hard you're trying, doesn't matter that your dad's the team president, your clock might be ticking.
Mm-hmm.
And then he wins. Did that help him?
Oh yeah. Fixed it all.
Think so? Do you think he bought him a contract extension?
I think so.
Do you think he bought himself 2 contract extensions? 2 years? 3 years?
I think he got himself a multi-year off that, for sure. If I had, I don't know the specifics of the situation, but I'm just saying if I was a betting man in terms of if that was the scenario, we're just talking in complete theoretics here. Scenario is, take his name out of it. Just say a ex-driver is on the hot seat 1 week before this. They go, put up a performance of being front row in qualifying, run up front the whole day, make 0 mistakes, wins the race. Doesn't matter that, the car in front of them ran out of fuel. They won the race. The weird thing about this game is that even if he had run 30th all day, it probably saved him. It probably got him 2 years.
So what you're saying, let me even zoom in on this a little bit further, is June 5th. So if that team was talking about replacing him in their internal conversations, right? Like maybe they haven't talked to another driver yet. Maybe they're just talking about it at their dinners, right? In their buses, on their jets, on the way to the track. Do those conversations stop immediately? If they were like,
with the other,
what, maybe, huh?
What? Say that again.
Did those conversations stop immediately after the win? Like,
with the other,
maybe we should see. Who's Ricky Stenhouse's agent, or who's what's Josh Berry doing next year?
All that came to a stop. You're saying
all that came to a stop on the plane home from St. Louis.
I'd say it took the pressure off for sure. That's the weird part about this game. You know that. Mm-hmm. We both know that. It's the funniest thing.
I wanted the listeners.
They want to
hear
understand.
That.
Well, and here's what I think you can go one step deeper, and it's a frustration of mine. And I literally just had this discussion the other day. I can't stand when racers talk about results versus performance. Because so often in this sport, we mix up results as performance. You could lead 199 laps at a race, blow a tire, right front tire in the last lap and finish 31st, and someone will say, man, you just didn't have it that day. And it's like, no,
you didn't. You did not have the air in your tire for that one lap.
You didn't have the air in your tire, but they're saying your performance was bad. And it's like, excuse me, there is a difference between result and performance. And the two are not the same. And therefore, obviously you can have incredible performance and not get the results. You can have a terrible performance and get an amazing result. That happens all the time. The two are not the same. But the funny thing about this game is the result is worth so much more.
So much more.
Than the performance. And it's like I was listening to, I love that Smartless podcast, which is the actors. And they talk about sometimes being a part of a bad movie or a bad show. And they'll say sometimes like, hey, that movie was bad, but you didn't have control over that. But your performance as an actor was amazing, right? Like you just nailed it. That's where they're actually extrapolating the performance away from the result, right? In racing, we never do that.
I wish that I'm not a man of regret, but I will say that I wish that through my 20s as a professional race car driver, I would have understood that more.
Same.
Because we tell ourselves, we focus on the performance so much to tell ourselves the story that justifies why we did what we did or why we did how we did, that it's okay that we ran 10th that day or 9th that day or 5th that day, that 5th was great because we were really a 12th place car. And so if they would just understand my performance, I've made a lot of excuses for myself throughout my career on the behalf of performance, even though I didn't get the results, right?
Yep.
So it's...
I actually, trust me, I've struggled with this whole thing, and that's when I loved David Smith's Motorsport Analytics, who now works at RFK, because his Motorsports Analytics was the first thing to me that ever sort of cut through the BS of results and tried to put performance as a metric, and continues, and it was amazing. It was really good at it, and it seemed like it was doing exactly that. He obviously now works for RFK and shut all that down. But, that to me was the first thing I latched onto, because it was that exact thing. And my favorite movie is Moneyball. By the way, I went to the Oakland A's last night at the Coliseum, which was super cool because I've always loved that movie. It's been my favorite movie forever. I've watched it a million times. And we had the chance to go out there with the team. That was a lot of fun. And I have something I want to bring up from that hit me while I was there. But my point of bringing that up is like that, that movie was, finding the diamonds in the rough and, tackling a problem from a different perspective than just with the easy glaring result and going towards a performance sort of focus. And we just, in racing, it just continually doesn't happen. And I don't think it ever will, because with results are all we talk about. It's all that matters.
Last point, though.
There's only one winner.
Last point, though.
Yep.
It was in Moneyball, they used that performance to get the results, right?
True. Yep.
So the focus was performance, where I feel what I'm saying is, I think as young race car drivers, we make the mistake and we twist the focus from results to performance because we can define performance, right? Performance is subjective. Is it not?
Yeah. No, 100%.
Performance, you can make performance subjective. You can say we had a 15th place car and we ran 10th or 11th. Now, you can make that objective too statistically, right? That here's what I did and I outperformed my equipment. But at the end of the day, we 9 times out of 10, we're making our performance justifications subjectively to make ourselves feel better.
Yeah.
When the results is what hires us and fires us.
It's all about results, baby. All about results. Speaking of results, we mentioned last week, Stewart-Haas Racing is shutting down at the end of the season, which leaves a bunch of drivers as free agents, a bunch of people that work in the industry, and, of course, crew chiefs. One of those groups is the Ford car, which is Josh Berry and Rodney Childers. They have put it out there publicly. They want to stick together wherever they go next. Kind of a unique situation. Basically, we talked about, the team owners have tried to figure out this whole deal with the charter where it would be you would buy the whole, whole organization like other sports. This is a driver and crew chief combination and a team that have basically said, hey, we're available. Come get us. All of us. We'll stay together. So I think it's kind of a wild, unique situation. Maybe this has obviously happened behind closed doors before. I think of Dale Jr. and Tony Eury Jr. going to Hendrick, right? Or situations like that we've seen. But I don't know if I've ever seen a driver and a crew chief and a team be in the position to publicly say this as a group that hey, we want to stick together, come get us. We'll see where we go.
Yeah, I think the there's just more public attention on it because of the team, but this happens regularly, especially with smaller Xfinity teams that have a lot more turnover and things like that of shutting down and car numbers changing and deals changing. It is not uncommon to see driver, crew chief, and a couple crew members move, from one organization to the other, sort of as a unit. Or, I've seen teams shut down and the general managers work their tails off to find a new owner, right? And find new money to come in and just fund the same operation.
Yeah.
And so, this is I think that's an awesome effort to see that. Hopefully those teams get to stay together. That will be interesting to see how it turns out. The problem is, they will still get fractured to a great degree because there's a lot of valuable talent at Stewart-Haas Racing that is probably already committed to new deals next year and under contract with new teams.
It would have been a hiring frenzy. If I'm at any of these teams that with the need for talent, at such a high DEFCON level for a lot of these teams, you would just be going after everyone you could in those places right now. So
how does Stewart-Haas Racing maintain performance all the way to the end of Phoenix?
I don't know. That's a tough one. Some people have not. I'm assuming they're in a non-compete situation potentially this year. Some of them, but I think some of that is just who they can incentivize to say, hey, stay here till the end, right? But yeah, it's a really great question, Josh, because they
will. Anybody that's considering leaving Stewart-Haas early is probably would be making a pretty selfish move. But I don't know. You got to do what you got to do, I guess. If somebody feels like they don't have a job lined up and they got a chance at one now, that's one reason if you got to do that to support your family. I understand, but I would imagine that anybody who has a good reputation, a standing reputation as of now, they're, and this is people that are seen a lot too, like road crew members. So mechanics that are on the road, tire guys on the road, pit crew members that are on the road, spotters, like that, the engineers that are on the road. I would say that those folks, are probably have to make some hard decisions for themselves if they get opportunities midway through the season, because it's not going to be a good look if they leave Stewart-Haas, if they hang him out to dry in the middle of the season, right?
That's a good point.
It's not the crew chief's fault. It's not the rest of the team's fault, and you're making it difficult on your peers to just ditch the team when chances are, if you're one of those team members, that job is going to be there for you next year.
Yeah.
Right. If you're an engineer, if you're a spotter, if you're a crew chief, if you're a car chief, chances are whoever's looking to hire you for next year or for right now could take you next year.
And that's a great point, because especially even the other organizations know the situation. So if they're coming to you as an engineer and saying, hey, we want you to be on our car next year, it's like, okay, well, let me finish. Can I start in December? Let me finish what I'm doing here. Yeah, no problem. I think that's pretty much an understood situation with what they have going on.
Well, you guys are assuming they want to go to another NASCAR team or IndyCar team or anything in racing.
Oh, they leave the industry.
If there's a lot of people, a lot of positions for CFD engineers and stuff like that. I mean,
that's an entirely different scenario. If you want to leave the industry, if you never want to come back, just walk away.
Yeah, maybe just hope that your prospective job doesn't call your former employer.
Yeah, there you go. Hey, why
your
does
former employer says,
quickly?
I had a contract with the guy through the end of the year, and he ditched us, even though we were shutting down.
Well, that's assuming Tony will answer his work phone. So,
there was a tire test. Sorry, I can't say tire. Tire test in Indianapolis with the Cup cars this week. Kyle Busch wrecked at that. Don't have a ton of information yet on it, but it looked like a pretty gnarly wreck through turns 1 and 2. Did see some video, very small lifts into the corners. This is going to be, it was a cloudy day. They were hauling around there. But just something I saw that was fairly interesting. Who knows if it was a tire issue or just simply a setup or loss of control. So, continually but the reason I bring it up also is just a bad couple days for Kyle Busch continues after being wrecked at Gateway, or his being a part of that wreck in a lot of respects. I don't think either side was innocent between Kyle Larson and Kyle Busch, and then just a couple days later wrecking at Indianapolis. That's a tough one. So, last bit of Cup Series discussion here. Todd Gilliland, first Front Row Motorsports driver, announced to be re-signed for next year as they expand to 3 charters next year. As they announced they got one of the Stewart-Haas ones. I saw some conflicting reports. Saw an article you and I sent to each other, 1-year deal. Pretty par for the course for Bob Jenkins and the Front Row Motorsports team. 1-year deals to the day they die. I saw some that said multi-year, which could mean multi-year or could mean the old 1+1, which is pretty common in NASCAR. Which is
1 plus 1 equals 1.
Yeah, 1 plus 1 equals 1. It's like, here's a multi-year deal. Well, no, this isn't really a multi-year deal. This is just one that you then decide halfway through that time if you want me to come back again. But that's pretty common. So the 1+1. But it is interesting. People ask why Michael McDowell left to go to Spire, and if the idea that it is still actually a 1-year deal, that was pretty in line with what I'd heard. That they just were sticking to their guns of their continual 1-year deals at Front Row Motorsports, which is how they've operated as long as I feel like they've been around.
Yeah, what did I text you this morning?
It's the year 2040, and 5-time NASCAR Cup Series champion Pietro Fittipaldi announces a 1-year extension with FRM.
5-year champion with Front Row Motorsports, Pietro Fittipaldi.
Yeah.
Extending his contract another year.
Another year. Like the last 10 consecutive years.
All love to Bob Jenkins. He has his
Yes.
he beats to his own drum, man. He does. I've had the pleasure for driving for him for 2 years, and I know all about his 1-year extensions and how they operate. I talked to him about driving for him several times before I drove for him. And it was always in that, back then it was talking, November, December. You wouldn't even start talking to Front Row until November, December. And then by the middle or end of January is when they made their decision on drivers.
Yep.
It's like a running joke in the garage. Not a joke.
Oh, yeah.
But it is a running joke. It's just like, that's Front Row. That's how they make their decisions.
Well, that was like last year.
Even when they knew who they wanted.
Yeah, last year they signed McDowell and Gilliland in August, which was unusual. That was like unheard of. We were all like, wow, this is amazing. Right. And now, to be signing Gilliland in June.
I mean, that is your ultimate barometer on driver leverage in the market, is what is front row doing, right?
If they keep backing up, if they eventually get to a multi-year deal, the drivers have won.
Yes.
If they have to back up to where they got to sign you back in February for the next year, you basically have a multi-year deal. So there you go. The drivers have won. There's the leverage.
Yep.
Guys.
That's if you're trading futures on driver contracts in NASCAR, just use Front Row Motorsports as your leading indicator.
And I can tell you that just a couple years ago, they were still making those discussions in November, considering I was in one of them. Well, for a short period of time, I flirted with those same things. I saw those contracts. It didn't end up coming together, but nonetheless, I've seen it, and this is moving. It's moving the other way. So there you go, guys. We're in power. We're in power now. Let's move into the Xfinity Series. We raced at Portland this past weekend, standalone for the Xfinity Series. Just a really cool racetrack up there. If you haven't seen, Shane Van Gisbergen finally got his Xfinity Series win. It took him all of 13 tries, but he got there. We all been waiting for him. He was good, but he actually wasn't the best on that day. Justin Allgaier was by far the best car, and it was proved across a bunch of metrics I saw. I've also seen all of our post-race reports. He was by far the best car throughout the entire race. Just, probably got outraced a little bit on that final restart. SVG actually in the first stage was slower. I was the third fastest car, I want to say, in the first stage. Even with the flat spotted right front, we had a horrible pit stop and went all the way back to 20th. It was impossible to pass, work our way forward. But even through that, I think we were the 8th fastest car over the whole race. SVG was somewhere in the top 5, but he wasn't the best. But that last restart, one thing I do think that he did that beat Allgaier was that little bit he could find is what you saw there is what makes us all sit there and shake our heads with SVG right now. And it was in qualifying. I saw the same thing. I threw on a 13.7 in round 1. I thought, okay, I got this thing covered on P1. That's a new track record. He didn't get me his first lap. He did another run, and he got me by 0.2. And I thought there was more out there, but I'm just like, damn it. Like, he can just get that little bit more. And at the end of that race, what you saw is he beat Allgaier by just being able to extract just something more. He just found a little bit more, even without having a better car than him. And he got his first win, and it's dangerous for all of us in the series because I didn't, him having that confidence, I knew he had it, but now I'm like, oh no.
He's good. He's good. Yeah, I was heartbroken for Justin. I was rooting for Justin, and the reason, I like Justin Allgaier. I've become more and more of a Justin Allgaier fan over the years, and I like him at Portland for a personal reason because I tested with him there in Camaros, and I saw firsthand he riding in the right seat with him driving, and I was like, God, this guy's good. and so I just, it's one of those things that you ever not really care for a band until you go see him live in concert, and then you're like, I'm the biggest fan ever. I was like, I got to ride in the right seat with Justin Allgaier driving, taking me around a Camaro 2SS around Portland. That was cool, and I got to see firsthand how good of a driver he is. And he was a little faster than me there, too, so I was like, well, if he's faster than me, he must be pretty good, too.
Yeah, he had this place down. Actually, who was the fastest car in Stage 1 according to our metrics? 19 car, Josh Bilicki. His first start at Joe Gibbs Racing. He was behind me the entire stage. He got by me just at the end, but he was the fastest car. It showed in Stage 1. Stage 2 is when the 7 took over. The 97 was 5th. And then Stage 3, the 7 and the 97 were the 2 fastest cars. But overall, the 7 was the fastest car all day. We were 8th. But it was impossible to pass this past weekend if you got back in the pack. When I went back to 20th, I was back there with AJ and Sam Mayer. And 3 laps into the start of Stage 2, I didn't say it audibly over the radio, but I thought this. I was like, oh, boy, we got to get ready to grind. Because it was so hard to get a run, and you're just, overheating your stuff as you run in that dirty air, and it's, the hot air, so you're poking out on the straightaways to get more cooling to the brakes. and you're trying to keep the rear tires on it and find a little bit something, and we just literally grinded our way forward towards 10th. But it was one of the most difficult 10 spots I've ever had to get in my life. And everyone was struggling with locking up the tires, and it just was so difficult. And so I thought, at that point, as we got to stage 3 and we restarted 13th, I was like, okay, we're going to need a miracle to be in the contention to win this thing. I think if we could have just stayed in the top 5, we had the speed to be there. But clean air and just being outside, being in the top 5 was incredibly important for car speed. So those two commanded the race correctly doing that, which was impressive. And yeah, I think the Justin has definitely the skills, at these courses. I think he's led the most laps in road courses of anyone over the last X amount, but doesn't have a win. So, he's just got to figure out a way to close it out. But I was just looking something up. Good. Because speaking of David Smith, by the way, you remember that his analytics discovered that the peak age for a NASCAR stock car driver is 39 years old. Do you remember this? And I was like, Justin just seems to be on one the last year or two, right? Just everything he does, he's on it. He's had so much experience. He's been here for a while. He's really at the top of his game. He's 37, so he's a little bit ahead of the curve right now. So
wow, he's
good
peaking.
for him.
Yeah. Well,
he's peaking, but he's on
speaking of analytics, and I don't want to skip over another topic because I want to talk about Kyle Weatherman. But speaking of analytics, did I see that you are ranked right now with the highest passing efficiency in the Xfinity series?
Well, so this popped up on Twitter. I was going to wait to get to this, and I was going to surprise you with it. So Auto Racing Analytics is a wonderful Twitter account that tagged me in this, and I saw this just before we started recording. And it says the most efficient passers on non-drafting ovals, which means non-super speedways, in the 2024 Xfinity Series answers the question: what percentage of the time does the driver complete the pass if they are within passing range? 5th was Sam Mayer at 20.2%. Taylor Gray was 4th at 20.5%. Justin Allgaier, 21.2%. And Cole Custer in 2nd at 21.5%. But myself, as you mentioned, P1, 22.8% of the time. If I go for the pass, you're done for. You're just over. You're in front of me. Just know you got no chance. Right? I don't know what this, what I find with these sort of statistics is we've obviously had our struggles in qualifying at some places. We've had issues that made us start further in the back. So we've probably passed a lot of cars, right? That can skew these occasionally, I believe. But it's nice, at least. Usually, though, these efficient passings are in the top 15, I guess.
I was going to say, I think that probably is quality passes.
Wow. All right. Well, I feel cool now. Thank you.
How many of these tweets do you think you send to your team when it comes up to contract renewal?
Oh, you just put them it's like a PowerPoint. Yeah. You just sort of spray all this in there, and then you're like, yeah, here's all the reasons you should love me and what I do.
Hey, what happened? What happened to Kyle Weatherman this weekend?
So I haven't seen video. Has anyone seen video?
No.
Okay, so we haven't seen any video of this. And I don't fully get what exactly happened, but I'll tell you what I've heard and what's been recounted to me is obviously he was upset with Ryan Sieg, I want to say it was.
It was one of the Siegs.
Yeah, one of the Siegs. And after the race on pit road, I believe he ran his car into their car. Now, which doesn't sound that harmful, but remember, NASCAR's taken a pretty stern approach to the idea that if, one, using your car sort of as a weapon against another car post green flag running, right? Secondly, on pit road where there's where there's humans, where the car could take off, or if you hit a car and it takes off in a direction it's not expecting, or if the driver has undone all their safety equipment, which is a big no post race, right? In terms of these sorts of things, they take a pretty stern approach. So Kyle Weatherman fined $25,000 for this.
That's a big fine.
That's a big fine for him. We said that was big for Austin Hill. When you're fighting to be in the Xfinity Series full time and the rides he's in, I mean, that is ginormous. So,
Kyle Weatherman is a guy that's grinding it out, making it on his own. There's no daddy's money. There's no trust fund there that's backing him up. I mean, I know he's got some good sponsor partners that are getting him in those cars. Maybe one of his sponsors will help pay the fine or something like that. He's, I mean, granted, Kyle's a real professional. Okay, he's a professional race car driver. He does it for a living. He's not a charity, so I'm not trying to suggest that he can't afford to pay his own fine, but that's just a big deal. That's a guy that has to race for a living, and he made a mistake, and he deserves a penalty for it. And I'm not trying to beat a guy down for that, but it's just painting. I'm trying to picture myself in 2013 driving for Johnny Davis, scrapping for Flex Seal sponsorship and G&K and or all these sponsorships that we had back then, and then getting hit with a $25,000 fine would pretty much wipe out all the good work that I had done several weeks leading up to that.
Slap it on and stops. What was the tagline for Flex Seal?
Oh,
come on!
Inside,
Somebody's got
and the inside stays completely dry.
Yeah, the inside.
He's talking about the boat.
The boat. Slap it on, and the water stops.
With all these discussions on fines, I mean, I've never actually seen it outlined. Do you just write a check out to NASCAR?
So that's actually a great question. I was told that there is a payment plan available with these. Don't know from personal experience, but you do have a payment plan that's available to you. It does go to a charitable effort, though, right? So it does go towards the NASCAR charity. But I don't know. I'm sure some choose to just write a big check, and some maybe use the payment plan. But I don't know. I don't know if I ever want to find out, to be honest.
I think with the teams, they just take it straight out of your prize money.
Oh, that's no fun.
That's another way to do it. Well, yeah. So so knock on wood here. Never want to find that one out. Let's move on from NASCAR. We are before we do, just reminder, we're heading to Sonoma this weekend. It's been repaved. It's going to be entirely different. No one knows what to expect. We've heard things like 2 to 3 seconds a lap faster.
Oh, it's quick.
Per lap. Yeah, we got Josh here, the expert of Sonoma.
I was out there for the TR2 racing.
The TR2.
And they were really, or TA2, and they were really quick out
really
there.
Fast.
So yeah. I'm curious to see how you guys go.
And it hasn't, they've done some of the repave fixing. It hasn't been run on since they've done this, apparently. So they've saved it for us NASCAR folk. So we'll see what happens. I was out there the other day. Track looks pretty cool. But it still has all the same bumps and undulations and everything. So
is it still green?
No.
Okay.
No, it's brown. The green one is a myth. It's never happened. No one ever seen it green out there. Let's talk open wheel. Let's talk F1. One of the biggest things announced this week, Sergio Perez, also known as Checo, re-signed for a 2-year extension at Red Bull. My goodness. Who saw this coming? Everyone has been calling for this man's head and thought Monaco, wrecking early, qualifying terribly. It's not getting out of Q1, wrecking early. It's all over. Talking about results. He's back. And Landon
Is this a sign? Is this a sign that Red Bull is not sure about Max and the future of Max?
What do you in the way that basically keep at least some continuity?
Yeah.
Continuity, by the way, is the way to say that word.
I was going to
continuity.
I was going to get there eventually. Continuity. I do that all the time. Continuity. Thank you.
Is that what is? I don't know what Max's contract timeline, all that stuff is, but if all of this stuff, and it's been quiet lately, right, since the start of the season. But remember the start of the season, all the rumors around Joss and Christian Horner and all this stuff. When it was all crazy, it was like, could Max be leaving? Are they setting up for an exit? Is this Red Bull hedging their bets to make sure that they don't end up having to fill 2 seats?
I think so. I also think it's the best teammate. We said this in the beginning, and no one wants to listen to us. It's the best teammate available for Max Verstappen. You don't have to worry. If he'll get just enough points. If you give Max fast enough car, you don't need to worry. He's not going to push Max in any major way, and he will be just good enough to pick up the scraps when Max isn't on it. And that's just what you need. And you also have the American connection, the North American connection. Obviously, they allocate Red Bull in Mexico and that sort of thing. And so I think there's just multiple reasons that this just works. It just works. Mm-hmm. And there's a saying that's been said to me a lot lately, which is like the devil you know versus the devil you don't. And you're the one who said this to me the other day.
I said that to you yesterday.
But you weren't the only one.
Thanks, yeah. Thanks for the credit.
By the way, I think it's, to your point, it's just, even if it's not a message about where they think Max is at, he is just the best number 2 for them and their design. And that's just the way it is. So as long as he wants to keep driving there, and probably financially everything, it works out great. So this does mean Carlos Sainz will not be going there. As we know, he's leaving Ferrari to make room for Lewis Hamilton. So
that's assuming Max stays. Carlos could be on the.
That is true. Max could leave. Carlos Sainz could go there. We'll see. That's still someone up in the air. Another thing that was announced: Esteban Ocon is leaving Alpine at the end of 2024. This comes after some rumors circling first after he got into his teammate Pierre Gasly at Monaco. He's had a lot of run-ins with teammates. Seems to be a very hard guy to work with. Has a major chip on his shoulder. What do I call him? The Ross Chastain of F1. Although that's Ross is probably a nicer teammate. But I said he has a chip on his shoulder. Just look at me, I'm crazy. Ross also wins. Well, no, Esteban's won. He's the only one who's won for Alpine.
Nope.
So, yeah. Where did he win? Where was that win?
Oh,
someone look it up.
Did he win by accident somewhere?
No. Esteban Ocon won. He won 2 years ago.
Let me Google it. Let's
guys,
the old.
Stats are not my thing today, but I've got incredible recall, at least for the general.
Well, either way, we don't have to hold up for that. But that's Josh could chime in on it. But he's out at the end of the season. Is he also out this weekend in Canada? I think he's getting replaced.
No, just in FP1 by Jack Doohan.
2021 Hungarian Grand Prix.
Yeah, Hungarian Grand Prix 2021. Gosh, guys, I just hold this whole damn thing out.
Like I said, did he win by accident?
Wow. No, just leave it to me to be the statistician here.
He led 30 laps.
He led 30 laps.
Well, actually, no. Wow. He led a lot more than 30 laps.
He led a lot more than 30 laps, like I said.
Was it a rainy day?
He got to the lead. I can't remember. He got to the lead because it was like it rained or something, and then he just never relinquished the lead because you can't pass it to Hungarian. It's like essentially Monaco 2.0. Anyway. He's leaving. I don't know where he's going. No one does. There's been a lot of conjecture, but it's interesting. And I said he's a Ross Chastain not because he's mean to teammates, because he has a chip on his shoulder. That's why he reminds me of Ross. And he races very aggressively. He's very aggressive.
He'd fit in at Haas with Magnussen.
Yeah, he'd be over there. It'd be good. That was the biggest news. There's just some rumors around, obviously, AlphaTauri V-Carb, the longest name ever, Visa Cash App RB, Red Bull 2.0, not releasing Yuki Tsunoda for Audi. So we'll see where that goes. That was some of the driver stuff. Also, a rumor out there that Hyundai wants to in on F1, which is a mistake. They should go to NASCAR.
Seriously? Yes, they should.
Yeah, they don't need to go in that pool. Not worth it. Not worth it. I'd say NASCAR should be their space. Before we move, just connected to F1 and NASCAR, Formula E wants to get back racing in Miami. They have been talking with both the F1 Miami Grand Prix that's there at that Hard Rock Stadium and NASCAR, which has Homestead Miami Speedway, obviously about utilizing something there to get back to racing Miami.
Can I make one hot take about Hyundai going to F1?
Please do.
That my hot take prediction would be they would be lighting about $100 million on fire, and then about 3 years later being like, yeah, this is hard.
Okay, $100 million. That's a small amount. You mean $1 billion?
Well, I'm using numbers that I think they probably would be able to spend. They're a big company, but I shouldn't be like that.
It's a couple $100 million just to commit. I think I've seen some of the numbers of what when I've told this story a million times. People factored going to the NASCAR Cup Series as a manufacturer at $150 million. Going to the F1, you're talking hundreds of millions, if not billions.
I really would think NASCAR would be a better fit, but I don't know. I guess I don't know internationally what their sales are.
They want to buy an F1 team, is what they're. So that means there needs to be an F1 team for sale. So
this is a terrible plan.
It's gonna have to be $1 billion, right?
Yeah,
you're not getting an F1 team for less than $1 billion.
Could be Alpine, which
Michael Andretti.
Yeah.
He's got all the numbers.
He knows it well. If you didn't watch the IndyCar race this past weekend, you missed quite a lot because it was one of the more entertaining shows I've seen in a long time of open-wheel cars on a street course, considering everyone wrecked at some point or crashed. And it was so bad in terms of the amount of times the pace car came out. There's a photo here in our notes of them refueling the pace car because they needed to add fuel to it.
That is never not a funny joke when the pace car needs more fuel. It has happened in the history of motorsports, and every time it happens, it is a laugh.
It's a great one. Great one. There was a bit of controversy coming out of this race post Augustine Canapino's fan base and their treatment of Theo. How do you say his name? Pocher? I'm going to learn this one. Nonetheless, they ran into each other on track. This is a long-running thing where the Argentinian driver, his fan base gets very aggressive on social media and sort of calls out these drivers and sends death threats and that sort of thing. And once again, that happened to Theo, and he had put out a statement saying this is unacceptable. The Augustine then put out a statement sort of not condoning the action, but then went about liking all sorts of comments that were of these things on Twitter. So
why do people do that?
Why do like comments? Why does anyone have to like it?
Why? Just
Doesn't
smile at it.
I know. That's how you treat my social media. You don't ever interact with it. You just smile at it and make fun of me.
Sorry.
Global Motorsports, before we get out of here today, just
Did
a
you
shout
not get
out.
my comment on Instagram?
Which one was that?
On your last video?
You said your family misses you?
Please come home, Parker.
What's your problem with my video? I thought it was funny.
It was funny, but it was very lonely in hotel room-esque
Yeah.
vibe. That's why I said that. I'm like, Parker, we miss you. Just come home.
Come home. It's definitely me in a hotel room in the West Coast, just like, well, I gotta kill an hour. What do I do
How
here?
many
I
takes
guess I
did
could.
it take to make that full video with all the back and forth and the cuts?
So you know what's funny?
Like, come
People
home,
ask
Parker.
that.
We miss you. Just
Well, people ask.
It's okay.
These, because I've done a couple of these, and what you may notice is that they're all either in Charlotte when I'm alone or in a hotel alone. So yeah, you've correctly gotten this. But the funny thing is, they can take me less than 5 minutes. I don't do takes. It's just
I
one
love that
back
meme
to
format,
back to back.
by the way.
It's so good.
This single actor back and forth. It's a really good one on Instagram. I might have to get in on that.
You have to try it.
Funny.
Give it a try.
I'll have to try it.
Come join it. The water's warm. I love it. I'm having a blast with it. And for those who have seen some of my videos, let me know what you want to see because I'm open for ideas. But they are too much fun. Like this week, that one was to trick people into getting a recap of my Portland race. If you noticed.
Oh.
So there was a method to my madness.
Not.
Yes. So I was like, I could get on here and I could be like, man, we were fast in stage 5 or stage 1 and we were top 5 and then we had a bad pit stop, blah, blah. But I was like, what if I could make it in a way that people don't even realize that they're figuring out exactly how my race
You
was.
were like, all right, dear ChatGPT, I'm a 34-year-old millennial and I drive race cars. I need to do a recap on my Instagram. But when I do a selfie video and tell people about my race, nobody watches.
And it's a bit
How
sad.
should I make a better video that will make Gen Z viewers like and subscribe to my channel?
Thank you. Thank you for that. Yes, that's exactly what it is. 18 to 24 is my largest demographic on Instagram. Putting it out there. And for Money Lab. So you're making fun of our listeners. Hopefully they like our stuff. Global Motorsports.
Hopefully they have a sense of humor.
Yes, they better. That's because you know what? The other side of doing those was a little bit of just racing's. Everyone's very serious in racing for good reason, and it's everyone takes it very seriously, which we all do, and it's a very serious thing, and there's a lot of seriousness around it. And sometimes I'm like, I just want to laugh. There's parts of this that are funny, but no one brings it up, and I just want to laugh. So it's a little bit of self-therapy here, a little mental health stuff. If you need it, go make some funny content. It's good for everyone. And it's giving to the world. It's making people laugh, make them happy for 30 seconds. That's my hope. Speaking of making people happy and seriousness, all in the same breath, the Isle of Man TT, probably the most serious motor race in the world. Those bikes going around 26 miles of the Isle of Man. It's the most insane place. I've talked about it multiple times. I went to it back in 2014. Most unbelievable thing ever. What's Dunlop won?
Mm-hmm.
Give me this. What did he win it for the 26th time?
It was some crazy number, but it was the Saturday race, I think, that he won.
Wow.
For the record time.
The record, 26th time, I think.
And he almost went back-to-back on Sunday.
Michael or Joey Dunlop? Which one?
That's a great question. The headline title did not.
Hey, ChatGPT, can you tell us if it's Joey or Michael Dunlop? Look that up for me. But real quickly, I just wanted to, the reason I point this out before we get out of here is that's the most dangerous race still running in the world. And this guy has done it, not only, done it a million times, but won it 26 times. I think it's 26.
His name is Michael.
Michael Dunlop, 26 times?
You got to let me load the Wikipedia page.
Oh, my God.
Fully next time. I just got the title.
What? This guy.
27.
27 times. I've been off.
42 podiums.
42 podiums. Think of all the risk he's taken. When I was there, 3 people died in the couple days I was there. It was just like, and everyone, the craziest, I've told this story a million times. You're on the sidelines, you're listening to the PA, there's motorcycles going by every, little bit, and then suddenly the motorcycles stop coming by, the PA goes silent for a minute, and then they just come back on and say, all right, we will resume racing again tomorrow at 10 a.m. Thank you very much for coming. We'll see you later. Goodbye. And it's just like, boom, that's it. This guy's done it a million times. Unbelievable. And the video from that race is just most insane thing there is.
I was watching a video on the show notes. It shows that he finished second in the next day's race, and that was because his visor came undone on the left-hand side. And there's a video of him coming to a stop and literally just messing with his visor. You can just see the frustration because he's in the lead, comes to a stop, puts the visor back on, and you can see the next racer come by. And it's just you just see how much he wants to win.
To that point, I put on all my own visors. I don't have anyone that does that. Always bother me if
I have my interior guys put on visors. Hey, Josh.
Hey, good luck for you. That's great.
Josh,
yes.
real quick.
Yes.
For the listeners, and for the viewers on YouTube and the listeners on Spotify, you need to go to the YouTube for this part. Josh, do you know, in the count of 2, what track is on Parker's laptop?
Oh.
1001, 1000 Lime Rock.
Lime Rock. He knew it. Yep. Well done. My blade of grass up there. It's the one sticker on my computer.
See, I don't recognize it because I normally race it on iRacing, the Pro 2 trucks, and that little curve after the hairpin, that's a straightaway.
Oh, okay.
You just
Perfect.
drive over the grass.
Yep.
I need some validation here. Are you actually more impressed that I knew the answer?
No,
to
I'm
that?
actually really impressed. I don't know if because you've seen this before and known I've told you before, or did you know it from the map?
I just was looking at it and I just knew it.
Wow. I mean, that's impressive. I am very impressed. That's amazing.
I do know my racetracks. Every once in a while, I could pull one out and be like, wow, Landon knows something.
That's how our listeners feel every time. Wow, Landon knows something. That's one of the most common comments we get. That's incredible. Love it. This has been wonderful. As we had a guest planned. We did. Even with being on the West Coast. He was going to come in remotely. We mentioned it. He was testing this week at Indianapolis. Had a crash. That's Kyle Busch. But because of the crash, you know what? I just texted him a little bit ago and said, hey, man, take it easy. We're wishing you well. Take a breather here. We'll get you on next week. So, didn't make it on this time, but we're hoping next week, Kyle Busch here on the Money Lap, of course. Thanks for listening. Thanks for listening to the Money Lap. As always, check out themoneylap.com for the best 5 minutes in motorsports, or sometimes just the coolest stuff in motorsports, delivered directly to your inbox 3 times a week. Check us out on YouTube. We're growing fast over there. And, of course, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram. We're all over the internet. We're spreading the word of how cool motorsports is. Check us out.
Oh. We got balloons.
We got balloons.
I love it.
I love it.